Right, let's start with the first big story this morning. The privatization of Nigeria's power sector is regarded as one of the boldest privatization initiatives, with a transaction cost of about $2.5 billion.
That's a big one. But many Nigerians say that there is yet to be any noticeable change in the power situation in the country. And the process include the dissolution of the National Electricity Power Authority, NEPA, the creation of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, as an initial holding company, and the creation of 18 successor companies consisting of 6 power generation companies, 11 power distribution companies, and 1 transmission company.
Now, the power generating companies are responsible for producing all the power consumed in Nigeria, and power plants are the source points of electricity. After power is generated, the generation companies, also known as GENCOS, evacuate the energy to the transmission company, who in turn send it to the distribution companies. They send electricity to the final consumers, and the transmission company is responsible for all the transmission network in the country. They manage the electric poles, transmission towers, and cables, etc.
All right, the debt burden of generation companies is making it impossible to pay contractors, repair and change obsolete machines. As at November 2016, GENCOS were said to be owed more than 300 billion naira, while the DISCOs have complained of being owed more than 100 billion naira by customers.
Now, GENCOS generates power, and the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, PLC, acts as a wholesaler which takes all the power being generated and sells to the DISCOs. NBET is expected to collect money from the DISCOs for the sale of electricity. And some have even gone on to say the debt crisis in the power market was primarily because the DISCOs were not remitting more than 50% of what they should remit to the bulk trader, NBET, for onward payments to producers of electricity and gas supplies.
Now, the NBET was set up by the government to support the power sector financially.
All right. Joining us from Abuja is the spokesperson, Association of Power Generation Companies, Joy Ogaji. Good morning, and thanks for joining us all the way from Abuja.
Good morning.
All right, so let me just ask you first off, so we can get that off the table. Is the power sector in Nigeria about to collapse under this huge debt burden that we hear is somewhere? It's almost close to ₦1 trillion.
And in answering to your question, if the power sector is going to collapse, I don't think I have the authority to answer if it's going to collapse or not. But I'm glad to tell you here that following FEC approval of last week on Wednesday, I think to be precise, the federal government has earmarked about 701 billion as a form of a guarantee for the PPAs, which I believe will be a buffer for the GENCOs going forward. We are yet to get more details on that.
All right,
okay.
Joy.
If that is true, then I think the power sector will not collapse.
All right, Joy, make us understand, because when it comes to the technicalities of what it takes to have light in homes and offices, Nigerians may not know the details, and maybe so many Nigerians don't even want to know. What they want to know is, I want to have light in my house. But how difficult is it from your point to ensure there's light in the homes of Nigerians?
Okay, generation of power, just as, in fact, when I go to programs, I do call Nigerians, we are all generation companies. Because each and every, let me not say each and every Nigerian, the majority of Nigerians are generating power in one way or the other. The market women have what we call the pass my neighbor. So we all know how power is generated. I don't want to go into the details of how power is actually generated. Now, the generation or the I pass my neighbor, which we all own, needs to be fueled. Apart from fueling it, you need to service it from time to time. And sometimes depending on your business or how big your house is, you need a security man to operate that generator. Same for the generation companies. We buy gas for those of the thermal powers, and then the other ones are the hydros that use water. Nothing, no ingredients or no material in generation is free. Everything is being paid for in one way or the other, including the O&M services, that is operation and maintenance team, other power sector operatives that put all the generation into place. So you can see that from the beginning, from day one, when you set up or buy the land and then start conducting your EIA and other survey, money is being spent all the way until the first megawatt is being generated. Now, why are GENCOS struggling?
Good question.
Very
Prior
good question.
to this time, as we all know, electricity was being managed by the federal government. It was a vertically integrated one, where government is in charge of distribution, is in charge of generation as well as transmission. On the 1st of November, the federal government of Nigeria took a very bold step and privatized the distribution as well as the generation arm. Now, having done this, the federal government also put in place some mechanism such as a bulk trader. Now, what is the role of a bulk trader? A bulk trader is like a buffer, somebody who provides guarantee, somebody who provides a soft landing. Because of the fear of investors, the federal government promised GENCOS, you don't need to worry, we have well-capitalized bulk trader who will ensure that as much as you generate, it will be paid for. So on the 1st of November, as I repeat, 2013, these generating assets were handed over to all the preferred bidders. We all know their names, and they are all spread all over Nigeria. They started their generation business and increased generation from 5,000 megawatts, which was the earmarked as at the time they took over. And currently, I can tell you that all GENCOS have an installed capacity of 12,500 megawatts. You can see from 2013 to date how much the generation companies have ramped up, and they are willing to put all of this on the grid.
Okay,
I'm here to also tell you that they cannot put it on the grid.
Let me come in here. Now, you have the generating companies or generation companies, the GENCOS, the TCN, which is still largely in the hands of government, and of course the distribution companies. Where exactly is the missing link in this particular chain that is causing the problem of poor power supply in Nigeria as it is?
Well, as they say, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. If you want me to start listing the weak links in those chains, there are so many. We have regulatory weakest link, we have transmission weak link, and we also have, I can't mention, I won't say distribution, because as a GENCO, I don't have any contract with the distribution companies. By the principle of privity of contract, we have a contract with bulk trader. We will supply power, you will pay us. So if you ask me what are the various weak links, with my knowledge in the power sector, I'll tell you we have regulatory issues, serious ones. We have a transmission issue, very serious one as well. And then for the distribution, that is for government to state what the issues of the discos are. Like I said, I don't have a contract with them, so I can't speak on that issue. I have contract with bulk trader. So now bulk trader is not performing according to his contractual obligation.
All right, Joy. Let's put you on a hold, Joy. We'll come back to have a better understanding, because I know you're taking us somewhere to understand this. We'll come back shortly. We'll go on a break now, but don't forget, we're going out on TVC Entertainment. Viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria, on Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
And of course, you can continue to watch the show on GoTV 45 and ACTV 510. Stay with us. Right, you're welcome back. Sometime last week, Mike, the GENCOS, the generating companies, actually put out a warning out there to Nigerians that in another month or so, there will be total darkness in the country.
Exactly.
The simple reason being that they're being owed.
They're being owed. Yeah, and they seem all of this is basically, it boils down more to issues of money, cash, and cash.
Yeah.
But
Indeed.
that is on one hand. We still have the skill, we still have the equipment, we still have, because a lot of people
you have
say
the gas
this.
supply that is
Exactly.
in very low quantity, and of course aging transmission infrastructure and all of that. Our guest in our Abuja studio is Joy Ogaji. She's the spokesperson for the GENCOS. Let's just keep it simple.
Generating companies.
Companies, yes.
For those who are following from outside of Nigeria who may not know what GENCOS are, Executive Secretary. She is the Executive Secretary of the Association of Power Generation Companies in Nigeria. All right, Joy, before we went on break, you were making a point, but let me ask you this. Now, give us a perspective. Do you feel that the government had, at first, when you were coming in, when they were unbundling NEPA into PHCN and bringing in all these private companies, what they promised, the guarantee they gave, the surety they gave, has government lived up to that expectation?
Well, if government has lived up to its expectation, we will not be having this problem in the power sector currently. We have serious issue of sanctity of contracts, keeping to the terms of the contracts. And if government, not only in the power sector, also in other sectors, if government can start keeping to the terms of the contract, I speak as a Nigerian, we will save a lot of money as well, because default is also causing us a lot of money, I will say, because I'm speaking as a lawyer. There are default clauses in every contract. And when the government does not keep to the terms of this contract, you know the implication, the penalties, and everything that goes with it. And we are suffering that in the power sector.
All right.
The original design, yes.
Yeah, but let me ask you this too. Apart from government, the GENCOs, the companies that are coming, or they were coming, or they came to take over the companies, have they also lived up to expectation?
Well, that is also where government comes in. In a post-privatization, in any country where privatization has taken place, side by side with the privatization, you put in place a firm monitoring and benchmarking organization or agency that will monitor these operators side by side with the contract they signed. So if you ask me that question, if the operators are meeting up or are keeping up to the terms of their contract, I think that question is not for me to answer, it's for government to answer. If the monitoring agencies are doing what they ought to do, and if they are benchmarking them to the KPIs that are all contained in their business plans. Speaking for the generation companies, I will tell you, and I stand to be corrected, that the generation companies are keeping to the terms of their contracts. And as a lawyer, being the executive secretary, part of my role is to ensure that they are compliant.
Okay, now in your earlier submission, you did touch on regulatory issues as part of the weakest link in this chain. Now, what kind of regulatory issues are you talking about? You want to itemize them for us so that we have a clear understanding of what you're saying?
Yes. Well, I will try my best. The regulatory risk or issues I'm talking about is when the regulators will come up with a particular regulation today, and just before that regulation is being implemented, midway it is changed. You know, changing the game plan in midway. When the new operators came on board, they saw the various orders, regulations, policies that were in place. Just midstream, most of these regulations were changed. For the DISCOs, for the GENCOs, and we kept on just going back and forth. Today is interim rule period. It was not envisaged in the EPSRA, which is the Electricity Power Sector Regulatory Act. 2005, which is the ground norm or the constitution of the power sector. We are then, after the interim period, we are currently in the transition electricity market, which is TEM. Now, what is TEM? TEM is a stage where all contracts in the market are effective. But I'm here to tell you that no contract in the market is effective. But we say we are in the transition electricity market. So you can see the somersaults here and there. I know that a newly privatized entity definitely will go through some teething period. But then, teething period from 2013 till 2017, don't you think that the teeth should have been grown enough?
To what extent then has this regulatory failures, if I could put it that way, affected the service delivery?
Well, it affects service delivery in so many ways, because one of the role of the regulator, if you check EFSRA, that is the constitution I just quoted for you, EFSRA 2005, section 32, subsection 1A to about subsection 2. You will see the role of the regulator. One of the role is to monitor efficiency and effectiveness in the market, ensure that enforcement and penalties are meted out and sanctions issued for defaulters, where the regulator itself is also defaulting. How can you regulate a market where you yourself, you are causing most of the risk?
All right, that picture is really worrisome when if we have to analyze and deduce the deducibles from there. But Joy, let me ask you, because regulation is very key and central to the effectiveness of all of this contract and all of that, ensuring everyone complies to the contract terms. But how helpless is the situation right now from where we are, from the minds of Nigerians who want light or power in their homes? How helpless is the situation?
Well, what I can say is that I think there is a light in the tunnel. Recently, I think exactly on the 7th of February, to be precise, the federal government has appointed the new commissioners, and they were inaugurated on the 7th of February. Although currently they don't have a chairman, but they have the vice as in acting capacity. We are hoping that now that we have a commission, they will right all the wrongs.
Okay, now talk to us a bit more about this 701 billion naira for guarantee for the PPAs that you say government, the Federal Executive Council has released. I know that sometime, was it last year, the CBN actually released some 213 billion naira bailout to cover revenue shortfalls, Now, tell us what difference this money, especially the one from the CBN, has made so far, and how soon do you expect the release from the FEC, the money from the Federal Executive Council to be released?
I would have loved to answer your question elaborately, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. The only information we have gotten is the same everyone read on the paper. We saw it on the paper that FEC has approved 701 billion naira for the GENCOS on account of power purchase guarantee. How this will be implemented, we don't know about it. When this will commence, we don't know about it. What is the sharing formula? We have not been informed.
All right, but what about the release from the bailout from the Central Bank of Nigeria, about 213 billion naira?
Well, in several scenarios, I've always explained that money actually was not a bailout fund, especially for the generation companies. These were monies of accrued power that had been generated, not yet paid. So the federal government came in the form of intervention that, okay, let's get some money from CBN to pay the generation companies of their accrued arrears that have not been paid for power that already has been supplied and consumed.
All right,
Upon
John.
issuing this money, the CBN brought out so many criteria here and there, and I think the question on why the money has not been disbursed is better answered by CBN.
All right, obviously we'll take it that the money is still with the CBN. All right, Joy, just stay with us. We'll take a quick break and return to discuss this even further. Stay with us.
Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. We are discussing power generation this morning, and a lot of Nigerians have had cause to complain of electricity and power in their homes, in their offices, and business places, and all of that. We have with us in our Abuja studio Joy Ogaji. She is the Executive Secretary of the Association of Power Generating Companies in Nigeria. And we've been talking about this to have an understanding of what the difficulties or challenges are in bringing light to or bringing electricity to people's homes.
There's a huge debt burden, and that's
Huge
exactly
one,
the
very huge.
The crux of the matter this morning. And so, how will the GENCOS, indeed DISCOs, and all the different arms that it is their job to ensure there's electricity for Nigerians to consume, how will they survive under this huge burden? Joy Ogaji, now this question is to you. What are there any creative ways that the GENCOs and the other arms are, coming up with to actually ensure that there is light, at least to a reasonable extent? Every day we hear Nigeria has some 5,000 is it kilowatts or megawatts of electricity? Megawatts of electricity. And yet the ordinary man on the street will ask you, well, there's no light anywhere. Joy.
Yes. Like I said, the generation companies are set and are ready to supply power to Nigeria to the tune of 12,500 megawatts by their installed capacity. As we speak today, they have an available capacity of 7,500 megawatts. But we can't get this power to you. Nigerians should hear. The transmission system cannot take more than 4,500 megawatts. And we cannot fetch power with buckets. We would have done it. When the privatization was being put in place, the federal government said they have put in place a mechanism to strengthen the transmission system, that it can take up to 7,000. That was as at 2013. That was a promise. That by this 2017, our transmission system would have improved to 10,000 and above. But as we speak today, 4,500 megawatts, put it on the grid, and the grid will start dancing Atilogo dance. And the power will just be rejected.
That's the funniest thing I've heard on this show in a while. Atilogo. Okay, well, that's interesting. Are you saying then that there's a lot of power being generated that is actually wasted? Is that what it is?
Correct. Quote me anywhere. I have recently written an article. I think maybe after this time you can look at it. I call it the Akara model. I broke down the Nigerian power problem to the scenario of Akara seller who buys beans and all the other ingredients she needed to produce Akara. After producing 1,000 Akara, she has the transporter who can transport it to her customer. Then, after signing agreement with him that he can transport the 1,000, when she gives him the 1,000, he rejects 500, saying that his truck is not strong enough, which is the transmission problem. We generate up to 100%, like 100%, 50 is rejected.
Wow.
And the government has not put in place anything to compensate us for that 50% that is rejected. Like power is not something you can store. As you generate, you must consume. As at yesterday, frequency was very high. Ask any engineer. When frequency is very high, it means that people are not consuming power. And then the system operator will call my generating companies, shut down, reduce. And this thing is impacting our machine, is destroying us. We are wasting gas.
Okay.
And operators
all right.
paying them for work that we are not being paid for.
Okay, Joy, we must thank you for giving us this idea, letting us know that the installed capacity is about 12,000, and then what is generated is about 7,000, but what can be transmitted practically can go beyond 4,005. All right, so we'll certainly look forward to understanding this more as we get along, because time is not on our side right now. But thank you, Joy Ogaji, Executive Secretary of the Association of Power Generating Companies. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.